Hello children, welcome to Tejas Education. This video is based on life processes, class 10 biology Cbse board. This is part 5 of the video series of the lesson life processes. Today's topic is transportation in human beings. Blood. When we think of transportation in human being, the word that comes to our mind is blood. Blood helps to transport digested food, oxygen with help of hemoglobin, waste material removal like removal of carbon dioxide, hormones, transporting hormones like thyroid hormones. Blood is called a fluid connective tissue. This we have learned in grade 9 chapter Tissues. Let's learn a little more about blood. Blood. Blood consists of two parts, fluid medium and solid medium. Fluid medium is called plasma, whereas solid medium is seen suspended in the plasma. What does this plasma contain? It contains salt, protein, water, hormones, whereas solid medium consists of RBC, WBC and platelets. This plasma helps in transport of food, carbon dioxide, nitrogenous waste in dissolved form. Whereas red blood corpuscles, they carry oxygen, WBC help to fight infection, thereby increase the immunity of the body, and platelets help to clot the blood, the site of the wound. They prevent leakage of blood from the body. So, if they ask a question, why blood is called a fluid connective tissue, we have to write, blood has a fluid part called plasma in which red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets are suspended. These are the solid part of the blood. The plasma contains protein, salt and hormone. So the blood flows and transports gases, removes the waste gas like carbon dioxide, digestive food, hormones to different parts of the body. We learned that nitrogenous waste are found in dissolved form in plasma. What are nitrogenous waste? Urea, uric acid, ammonia, these are the waste products formed during the destruction of protein in our body. These has to be released regularly, otherwise they are harmful for our human body. These are formed in the liver. They are removed with the help of kidney through urine. There are two types of wastages formed during destruction of protein, nitrogenous and non-nitrogenous waste. So nitrogenous waste are urea, uric acid and ammonia, whereas non-nitrogenous waste are carbon dioxide and water. Now let's learn about the pumping organ, our heart. It pushes blood around the body. There is a network of tubes that reach out to all tissues, and a system is in place to ensure that this network can be repaired if damaged. Our heart is size of our fist. As the blood has to transport carbon dioxide and oxygen, the heart has different chambers to prevent mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood means it contains carbon dioxide. Oxygen is absent. The carbon dioxide rich blood must reach the lungs for carbon dioxide to be removed. The carbon dioxide is removed through the process of exhalation through lungs, and the oxygenated blood from the lungs must be brought back to the heart, and this oxygenated blood is circulated throughout the body. Working of our heart. If you look at this picture, I have written heart in the middle, and there is right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, and the lungs are the top, and the below there is body organs. So when the oxygenated blood is carried from the lungs to the left atrium through pulmonary vein, the left atrium relaxes. Once it is filled with blood, it contracts and the blood is transferred from left atrium to left ventricle through the wall. And then from the left ventricle, it is carried to body organs through the main artery called aorta. It has oxygenated blood. Then from the body organ, all the deoxygenated blood is carried back to right atrium through main vein called vena cava. And when the right atrium is receiving the deoxygenated blood, it relaxes. Once it is filled, it contracts and the blood is carried on to right ventricle. And from there, it is carried back to the lungs through pulmonary artery to get oxygenated. So oxygen-rich blood from the lungs comes to the thin-walled upper chamber of the heart on the left atrium through pulmonary veins. Children, please remember this. The left atrium relaxes when it is collecting this blood. Then it contracts while the next chamber, the left ventricle, expands so the blood is transferred to it. When the muscular left ventricle contracts in turn, the blood is pumped out to the body. Then the oxygenated blood is carried to various body parts to the main artery called aorta. Deoxygenated blood comes from the body organ to the upper chamber on the right atrium. It expands. As it expands, the corresponding lower chamber, the right ventricle, dilates. This transfers blood to the right ventricle, which in turn pumps it to the lung for oxygenation. The deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle is carried to the lungs through pulmonary artery to get oxygenated. So again, note this point. Pulmonary artery is carrying the deoxygenated blood. The main vein called vena cava carry deoxygenated blood from the body organ. Superior vena cava carries blood from head, neck, arms and chest, whereas the inferior carries from leg, feet, organs in the abdomen, that is stomach and pelvis. Why ventricles have thicker muscular walls than the atria? Ventricles have to pump blood into various organs, so they have thicker muscular wall than the atria. What is the function of valve? Valve ensures blood does not flow backward when atria or ventricles contract. This is a very important question in board exam point of view. The valves are made of strong, thin flaps of tissue called leaflets or cusp. If you look at this picture, this is the left atrium. So when the left atrium contracts, the blood flows to left ventricle and it is through mitral valve. When right atrium contracts and the blood flows to right ventricle, it is through tricuspid valve. And when the blood from the left ventricle is going to the main artery, it is through aortic valve. And when the blood is moving out from right ventricle, it is through pulmonic valve. Now we are going to learn about separation of the right side from the left side in the heart. It is helpful because it prevents mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So you can ask the question, what will happen if the oxygenated blood gets mixed up with deoxygenated blood? It affects the efficiency of transporting the oxygen throughout the body because the tissue as well as the lungs get same amount of oxygen. Then the next question can be asked, why these blood don't get mixed up? As we know, the left side there is a valve which separates left atrium and left ventricle. It is called mitral valve. And the function of these valves is that they prevent backflow of the blood. So the oxygenated blood doesn't flow backward. So the mixing of oxygenated with the deoxygenated blood is prevented. Now, the third question. As you see in the screen, this is useful in animals that have high energy needs such as birds and mammals which constantly use energy to maintain their body temperature. So the mixing of oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood should not take place in these mammals and birds. Why? Because as their energy need is high, They have to maintain their body temperature. If the mixing takes place, their circulatory system gets affected. Its efficiency comes down. Now look at the picture. It is a chameleon, right? It's a reptile. So in animals that do not use energy for this purpose, the body temperature depends on the temperature in the environment. Such animals like amphibians or many reptiles have three-chambered hearts and tolerate some mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So chameleon has three chambers, but crocodile has four chambers. Okay, children, it is an exception. Now, fishes. Fishes, on the other hand, have only two chambers in the heart. The blood is pumped to the gills and it gets oxygenated there and passes directly to the rest of the body. Thus, the blood goes only once through the heart in the fish during one cycle of passage through the body. Double circulation. The oxygenated blood from the lungs returns to the heart, which is pumped again into different parts of the body by the heart. The blood passes twice through the heart, making one complete round through the body. This is called double circulation. If you look at this picture, you can see that the upper part is called pulmonary circulation, lower part is called systematic circulation. So double circulation is taking place. One of the most important question is differentiate between arteries and veins. Let's learn about arteries first. The vessels which carry blood away from the heart to various organs of the body. The arteries are thick elastic walls because the pressure of the blood is high. They have valves. They carry oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. Veins. Veins collect the blood from different organs and bring it back to the heart. They have thin wall because pressure of the blood is less. They don't have valve. They carry deoxygenated blood except the pulmonary vein. What are capillaries? They are tiny blood vessels. They have thin walls. They have walls which are one cell thick. They supply oxygen and nutrient from blood to organ and tissues. Carbon dioxide and waste are taken away through diffusion. They have narrow lumen, the gap inside them, right? The lumen is very narrow. RBC squeezes through it, whereas WBC, white blood corpuscles, squeeze between the cells of the wall. Okay, the capillaries then join to form veins that convey the blood away from the organ or tissue. Please learn this nicely. Now we are going to learn about platelets. What is the function of a platelet? If you get a wound by some physical activity, the blood starts leaking from the wound. These platelets are the cells that are circulating around the body and they plug these leaks so that the blood clots at these points of injury and the pressure of the blood is maintained in our body. Lymph or tissue fluid. Through the pores present the wall of capillaries, some amount of plasma, protein and blood cell escape into intracellular spaces in the tissue to form tissue fluid or lymph. If you look at the picture, these are the lymphatic vessels. These lymph or the tissue fluid are like plasma of the blood. They are colorless and they contain less protein. They drain into lymphatic capillaries from intercellular space which join to form large lymph vessels that finally open into larger veins. So what is the function of lymph? They carry digested and absorbed fat from the intestine and drain excess fluid from extracellular space back into the blood.